Welcome to the Note Nuggets podcast, where you can learn how to become the bank, build wealth, and accumulate streams of income perfect for your savings or IRAs. You'll hear from industry experts, seasoned veterans, and everyday investors. Our goal is to teach you how to invest in notes, one nugget of knowledge at a time. Here's your host, Kevin Galang.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Note Nuggets podcast. I want to start by asking all of you a question, and it's a rhetorical question, but a question nonetheless. Can you lose money while investing wisely and safely? Of course, we know that the answer is yes. Every investment has a risk. It's part of the game. There is no such thing as a guaranteed return. Anybody that tells you otherwise is not somebody you should be listening to. Even the smartest investors cannot control everything. That includes a return, which is why we should always focus on the things we can control. One of those things, especially as a note investor, is proper due diligence. Leave no stone unturned. This includes unpaid property taxes. As a note investor, this can be an absolute nightmare if you miss them, because you could lose all of your investment. So this note nugget, listen to how this investor deals with unpaid taxes. Jordan Williams is the owner of AccuVesting Services Incorporated. He is a real estate investor who has been investing since 2016 and has experience in mortgage notes, fix and flips, and buy and hold properties. And recently, he has been buying and optimizing undervalued multifamily properties in the Montreal area. Prior to investing full-time, Jordan was a successful respiratory therapist who used investing to get out of the rat race. And then the taxes. You were talking about it there, and I've heard and read stories where the taxes, they catch an investor by surprise, and worst case scenario, that city can foreclose on the property regardless of who just bought the note. Can you explain that whole, like, the relationship with taxes and where you stand as an investor, why you need to be so aware of taxes?
Yeah, that's a great question. What happens typically is that there's a certain amount of time, depending on what state you're in, the tax sale, it's like the government. You don't want to mess around with the government, right? Everybody's got to pay taxes, whether you're working your 9 to 5, or you're selling properties, or you have a store, or your property. The government always has to get their taxes, no matter what. So, in the realm of real estate, if a person is not paying their taxes, each state guidelines are different, but there's a certain amount of time that a homeowner kind of has a grace period of not paying, being allowed to not pay taxes without any repercussion, meaning the property won't be taken away. But what happens is all those taxes add up, and they don't go away. They just add up, and interest is added onto them. And at some point down the line, it'll go to a tax sale because the county wants to recover their taxes. So whatever's owed as taxes on the property can be sold for, and people can go and actually buy properties at a tax sale auction.
That's interesting, and that takes precedence over what you would do. So if you didn't see that, let's say your due diligence was poor, you could have that property taken from you because you weren't up to date with those taxes.
Oh yeah, and I've heard stories of that, and if they weren't pretty, where people lost their whole investments, wiped out because the taxes weren't paid.
Now that's a nightmare that I never want to deal with, which is why I'm sure you and I, as note investors, are going to do proper due diligence. That includes making sure property taxes have been paid. To check out the full interview with Jordan Williams, head over to notennuggets.com/unpaid-taxes. Until next time, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Note Nuggets podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get access to additional weekly value nuggets and get notified with episode updates. To subscribe, all you have to do is head over to subscribe.notenuggets.com. If you have any questions about this episode or note investing, book a time on Kevin's calendar at contact.notenuggets.com. We'll see you next week with another note nugget to add to your tool belt.